The show that interviews people from the past.
Huh? What were you thinking?
I don't know.
Welcome to What You Were Thinking. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, our guest is a man who was victim of his own deceit. He actually created the circumstances that led to his downfall. He was a man who hated all Jews. He was, in fact, determined to ensure the extinction of all Jews in Persia. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Haman, the Agagite, the persecutor of the Jews.
So Haman, could you fill us in a little on your ancestry so we may more readily understand the man Haman?
Well, I'm the son of Ham Medatha. Ham Medatha? You know him? Have you read of him? Who's the chief minister to King Ahasuerus. I am a direct descendant of Agag, the king of the Amalekites. For many years, I was a barber. But when my father passed away, King Ahasuerus, out of respect for my father, promoted me. He gave me a very high position in his court, putting me above and in charge of all the other princes in his kingdom. He, in fact, made me the next to him in power and over his whole realm.
So in knowing that, would it be safe to say that you were not very well liked by your peers?
Not by them, and definitely not by those unconscionable Jews. They all hated me, and I hated them. They were the scourge of the face of the earth, with all the rituals and laws and were handed down, and that they tried to impose on everyone else. They were, without question, far above their station in society and in rank and in the human race.
So Haman, how can a man have such hate for another race and control his thoughts in such a manner as you've just revealed here tonight?
Well, I had to live amongst these people. I knew that they were like what they were like, and they were contemptible, trying always to push their values, always their rituals, their laws on all others, and trying to make us worship a God that we didn't want. They had a holiday for everything. And if it wasn't a holiday, it was a holy day. I think it was a ploy myself, just to get out of work. You know, if there was no work, then they could pay tributes, and that fell back on my head. For I was the man in charge, and there was no way I was about to let that happen. They were a little deplorable people. They were deplorable people, and their only objective was to please their God. They needed to be exterminated from the planet, so I decided just to do that. Completely exterminate them was the only answer for decent people to live free from the burden of having to live amongst them. That's why.
It seems to me that I've heard of someone else who thought in the same like manner as you, Haman. His name was called Adolf Hitler.
I met him.
But putting all things aside for now, tell us, why did you seem to take it all out on poor Mordecai?
Poor Mordecai? If that's not enough to make you throw up. Mordecai wouldn't bow down before me. Even after the king himself has made it a law. He thought the symbols on my robe, which I had to take off, were adulterous, and he would not bow down to me. So I decided to make him pay dearly for that. And two, he was someone the Jews looked up to. So I figured I can get two birds with one stone, so to speak. So I devised a plan to do just that. I went to King Ahasuerus and told him that there was people spread throughout his kingdom and that a people with diverse laws, and that not keeping the laws, I even told the king I would pay all the expenses for having the Jews exterminated. The king greatly agreed to what I had to say. And he told me to keep my money. He put total charge, give me total charge to terminate of all the Jews within the kingdom. The king gave me his ring, upon which was his seal. His seal. Letters were sent out throughout the kingdom telling everyone of the coming extermination of all the Jews in the realm. So being an astrologer, as I was, I watched the stars for the perfect time to begin the destruction. Every time I chose a date, the date more favored the Jews in being one of those holidays. Can you imagine? I mentioned prior, until finally the month Adar, which I believe for you people is the month March, was the chosen date to begin the extermination. And the best part was that the king agreed and sanctioned everything I was about to do.
So, Haman, from what you had just told us, there's no need for me to ask what you were thinking, for you have made that quite clear. So what I will ask is this. There was a small glitch in your plan, wasn't there?
Yeah, apparently so. You see, I'd forgotten the powers of that beautiful woman who was to wed the king. And I had also forgotten that Mordecai had raised her as his own daughter. You see, Vashti, the queen, had disobeyed the king, and fearing what the people may think, he decided to choose a new queen. And that just that just happened to be Esther, Mordecai's daughter. But she too was very beautiful, as Queen Vashti was. And the king favored Esther over all the women that had been brought before him as prospects to be his new queen. When Mordecai saw the letters of extermination for the Jews, he went to Esther and asked her to beg for mercy to the king and spare them. Esther had kept in secret from the king that she too was a Jew. So she devised a little plan of her own. That just shows you how underhanded those Jews can be.
So what did Esther do?
Well, as Esther, now the new chosen queen, went in before the king and held out his scepter to her, for he favored her greatly. There was a law that if anyone went before the king unannounced, they'd be put to death unless the king held out his scepter to them. Then they'd be spared and heard of the king. Wouldn't you know it? Just wouldn't you know it? It didn't stop Esther, as it were. The king held out his scepter to her and told her to ask for anything she wanted. Can you imagine? Anything she wanted. Even half the kingdom. She asked that the king and I come to her dinner she had prepared, so the king made me go and make haste. And we attended Esther's dinner. Again, Esther asked that we come to a dinner the following day. I thought, wow, the queen and the king have found great favor in me. Wow. Far above all the other princes in the realm, I was elated.
So now, Haman, I have to ask, what were you thinking when you see and heard all that was done by Esther?
Well, you must understand, Kathy, I didn't know Esther's history. I didn't know who she was, and that she was a Jew. I bragged to everyone, the other princes, my family, everyone. I told them all how highly favored I was, both the king and the queen. I was elated, to say at the least. My friends, my wife, told me to construct a gallows and hang Mordecai upon it. And they told me to go and eat with the king and queen and to enjoy my dinner. I thought a great idea. And I ordered immediately the construction of the gallows.
And what transpired then?
Well, as it turned out, the king couldn't sleep that night. So he started reading over some old records and found that Mordecai had saved him out of the land of 2 disgruntled servants of the king. Nothing had been done for Mordecai for saving the king's life. When Mordecai had revealed the plot for the murder of the king, asking who at the hour was in his court, his servant said that it was I, hanging Mordecai on the gallows I had built for that purpose. The king rushed in and asked me what I thought he should do, to honor someone he desired to bestow honor upon, thinking there was no one else but myself that the king would honor. After all, I was there, right? And after attending him at the dinner, I thought it'd be me. For sure it'd be me. So I told the king to let the person being given the king's robe and crown, let him ride upon the king's horse, and let the horse be led through the streets of the city with one of the princes proclaiming the honor given the man by the king. And wouldn't you know it? It was Mordecai, who the king wanted to honor. I thought it was me. Why did I say that? My being the only one in the king's court, that's right, the king made me do it. You know it, I had to do it. When it was over, I ran home and buried my head in shame until, once again, I was summoned to attend dinner with Esther and the king.
Now here at this point, Haman, things began to spiral out of control, did they not?
Oh, very quickly. Very quickly, I might add. Esther told the king of the plot to kill her and her people. The king, not knowing that she was a Jew, asked Esther who it was. So she told him, it was I. The king, now very angry, went in the garden to think on the matter, and I, being very distraught, fell in tears on the bed beside the queen to beg her and ask the king's mercy for me. But just then, the king returned and thought I was making an advance on the queen. Wow. And as the king's chamberlains covered my face to kill me, one of them told the king of the gallows that I had built. I had built for Mordecai. And the king had me hung immediately upon it. And as soon as they found my sons, they hung them also, along with any who were party to my plan. My house, my robes, my crown, all that I had, my authority over the kingdom, everything was given to Mordecai. The Jews made it a holiday. Where they, by the name, it called Purim, because of the plot to have them all destroyed. Can you believe that? A holiday, another holiday. Who would have guessed it?
Guess that explains the paper crown. So, your story's been a very interesting one. This is for certain. What, if anything, did you learn from all your experience?
Well, obviously, I learned that messing with the Jewish people led to disaster. Their God is with them. And now I know also that if you bless the Jewish people, their God will bless and favor you. The Jewish people are God's chosen people. I learned that. I know that a lie is like rolling a snowball. The more you roll it, the bigger it gets. I know now it is better to love and not hate, and that bitterness will consume you, absolutely consume you as it did me. And I know that whatever you sow, you shall reap. Prejudice is a cancer that will eat you up. Hate is bitterness, and hate and bitterness are roots to be cut off and burned in the fire. Greed and flame are false gods and should not be worshipped. And asking for the forgiveness of God takes away your sins. But I neglected to do that, and now I'm paying for my sins. Listen, don't be as I was. I was wrong in what I did. However, it's not too late for you. But it is late for me. And not too late for anybody here tonight who may carry the same traits as I carried. Let's just tell you, give them up. Give them to God. Let him guide your life, and you won't end up like me, tormented in hell for eternity. And that guy you were talking about, I met him.
Haman, we'd like to thank you for being our guest tonight on What You Were Thinking. Ladies and gentlemen, Haman, the persecutor of the Jews. Haman's life is much a paradox with that the life of Adolf Hitler. Haman died by hanging for his crimes against the Jews of Persia. Hitler was predetermined to be hung for his crimes against the Jews of Europe. However, Hitler committed suicide, thus foiling any attempt of being hung. Haman's 10 sons were hung, and Hitler's 10 highest-ranking officers were hung as a result of the Nuremberg trials. They both, Haman and Hitler, wanted to genocide the Jewish people, and both were unsuccessful. And they both gave their lives trying to accomplish the task, as those involved, who were in agreement with either Haman or Hitler, were tracked down and held accountable for the crimes that they were committed against the Jews, one under the authority of the War Crimes Act designated by Mordecai and Esther, the Queen, the other under the authority of the Geneva Convention. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being on What You Were Thinking. Good night and God bless.
The show that interviews people from the past.
What were you thinking?
I don't know.